guys, how do y'all do? I got two videos going twice because I'm going live here and I'm recording here. So if I just keep looking back and forth, ignore it. My kids are here, of course, because we're quarantining. So if you hear children, ignore them too. So I am going to do a basic vanilla recipe cake. So I know a lot of people struggle with finding like a good vanilla recipe, because I did too, and it took me like 2 years to figure it out. So I'm a little ghetto when I cook, so don't expect little fancy little cups with pre-measured stuff and all that, because I don't do that. First, wash your hands. It's very important. Wash your hands. I've already washed mine. I have my stand mixer, and I got all my ingredients sitting here. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put my oven on 325. I bake everything on 325. You kind of have to just know your oven. Sometimes you can cook it too fast and then you end up with a really brown top, or like it's really crusty, or sometimes you bake it too slow and it doesn't cook well, or you're waiting forever. So my oven cooks everything really good at 325. So, set my oven. Okay. Zion wants to help me, my daughter. Say hi. Hi. So, first thing you're gonna do, this is a really important step. A lot of recipes are like, put this and then put that and then put that and put that, and they're like, if you don't do it that way, it's not gonna come out right. Well, from all the experimenting that I've done, the only thing that I've found that you must do is to beat your sugar and butter together really, 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 really well. So I have my room temperature butter. See, it's all nice and like squishy. And then they also say everything has to be room temperature. They lied about that too. And the only thing that I make sure is room temperature is my butter. Because if you try to do it when it's not room temperature, you're going to struggle. Because I struggle trying to be quick. So don't do that. Okay, I got my butter in. Now I'm going to put 2 cups of sugar. It's my 1 cup measuring sugar. Here. No, you didn't wash your hands. Go wash your hands. You almost got me. I'm struggling, y'all. Okay. 1 cup. Hey, brother. 2 cups. Wait, no. Don't put that in there, because you're going to need that later. Alright. I'm going to hook I'm using my mixer paddle. I'll lift it up. Mix it. While the sugar and butter is mixing, I like to put the vanilla in with it right now. So this is 1 teaspoon. I'm going to put 2 teaspoons of vanilla. I have McCormick because I couldn't go to the store that I normally get my vanilla from. But if you don't, always make sure that you guys pay attention to the ingredients on your vanilla, because I used to just buy any kind, then I started reading the ingredients, and you'll read them and sometimes they'll say corn syrup or caramel coloring, all the other kind of crap. The only thing you need in your vanilla is vanilla bean, alcohol, and sometimes they'll have water in it. And I guess, I don't know why, but it won't kill you to have water in your vanilla. But if you buy some vanilla and it's got all that extra crap in it, I mean, it's going to probably taste fine, but I've just become more conscious of things that I buy. I read the ingredients on everything now. So yeah, 2 tablespoons. And you see I'm still letting this mix. I'm going to let y'all see it in a second. I'm going to put 2 teaspoons. Really white and fluffy. If it's not white and fluffy, keep mixing. Which is why it's really good to have a stand mixer when you're baking from scratch, because sometimes you just gotta let stuff mix. I am going to use 4 large eggs. So some people too like to like white cake. I don't care. But if you want white cake, you will take the yolks out. But here's the catcher on that. If you take the yolks out, you're going to have to substitute an additional fat, because the yolk and the eggs both play a part when you're baking something. So if you take one or the other out, you got to put something back in. So if you only use the egg whites, I suggest to put 1/4 of a cup of cooking oil, like vegetable oil, canola oil, something like that, in it. And so that you'll end up with a dry cake. And that's okay. I got my eggs in. Now I am going to put, I'm using cake flour. So cake flour already has leavening agents in it, so you don't need a whole lot. So I'm going to put baking powder, but I'm only going to put 1/2 teaspoon in. I told y'all I'm not fancy. I don't do all that pre-measuring stuff. I don't have time for that. You don't have time to do it. So also make sure, see, this is what she was about to do. See that? Don't do that, because that's too much. Too much. You want to scrape it against the side or take your finger and make sure that it's even at the top, because the little thing is measured out for how much you need on the inside. So if you pile it up on top, that means that you're putting more than what you're supposed to. So you want to take your spatula and scrape down the sides when you're using a mixer, because it'll push everything over to the side, and then you'll end up with like clumps of butter and stuff, and then your sugar and stuff won't get all the way mixed in. I'm going to add a pinch of salt. So you'll notice in a lot of baking recipes that they say to add salt, and you're like, why do I need salt? Salt is a flavor enhancer. So when you enhance sugar, when you add salt, it's just bringing out the flavor more. So I'm like barely gonna put any in there, because you don't want salty cake, right? I don't know if y'all can see that, but this is all I'm putting in there, right? Throw that in there. Done with that. Now, okay, so you're gonna need 3 cups of cake flour. Girl. Alright, shake it off, make sure that your top is flat. I use, so you need a cup of milk or a cup of a liquid, right? I use 1/2 cup of whole milk, half a cup of heavy whipping cream. Don't ask me why. I just tried it one day and it was great, and so that's what I did. If you don't have heavy whipping cream, you can do 1 cup milk. Make sure it's whole milk. Don't be trying to act like if you use skim milk on the cake, it's going to make it healthier for you. It's not. It's going to make it drier. Okay? Because you need the fat. Yes, you can put it. So there's your half a cup of milk. Be careful so that all of it goes in. Alright? Now, I'm going to do... You did? Half a cup. Of heavy whipping cream. Sour cream. Now, you don't have to put sour cream in there, but remember I said fat. That's what makes a cake moist. And I gotta hurry up because if you mix it too much, it's gonna mess up. So, sour cream, 1/4 of a cup. I'm just gonna scoop that, pop it in there.
What happened to the dogs?
Y'all ate them. That's what happened to them.
I can just look at them.
That's it. No, you put that in the sink. All right, so I'm gonna spray down the sides before I put it into the baking pan. Because, again, if you don't have the paddle that has the little rubber things that scrapes the sides as you go, you end up with clumps. And when you end up with clumps of sugar and butter in your cake, it's going to bubble up and pop to the top, and then you're going to look like holes at the top of your stuff. If you want all of your stuff to look the same, then you want to make sure that you're scooping the same amount of batter into each little spot. So I just rinse this out for when I get the got powder all over me, y'all. All right. Just wait a second. All right, so scoop it out. Pop it down. So you also want to make sure that you don't fill up the entire space, because cake rises, and if you fill it up completely, it's not gonna, I mean, it's gonna like overflow. So, another thing I like about this recipe is it's very versatile. Like, I can make red velvet, I can make, so I have it in there, but you see how it's all like sitting up? So I'm just gonna tap it on the counter, kind of like to get it to, sorry, I know that's loud. My girls know when I'm up baking because they hear me clinking and going on. So you also, too, what I'm doing right now is kind of like cleaning the edges off, because if you leave a lot of cake batter like all over the thing, it's gonna burn. Those particular pieces are gonna burn. Then you're gonna have little black crusties everywhere. Do that. Don't go by the color. You want to take your finger very lightly and tap the top of it. If the top of it springs back up when you tap it, not jiggle. If it jiggles, it's not done. If it springs back up like a soft, fluffy cotton pillow, it's done. Okay? Take it out. Because if you're like, oh, it's not dark enough, and you leave it in there, you're going to be like, oh my God, when you pull it out, because it's going to be overdone. All right? So if you press it, it springs back up, right? All of them. None of them. If you press it and it sinks in, that means the inside. Hey, Ashley.
Hey, Ashley.
So that's how you know they're done. If you wait until they're brown on the top, they're going to be overcooked, and they're not going to be moist on the inside. They're going to be dry because you overcooked it. So I'm going to pull out this last. Watch out, watch out, watch out, watch out. So these are right out of the oven. And you see when I press still? That's how you know. She said hey. She said hey back. Okay? Let's go. We're gonna make cream cheese icing. Give me one of those sticks of butter. So, yeah, I have never in my life used this brand of cream cheese, but they were out of the Philadelphia and they were out of the Great Value, and I know both of those work. And this was all they had. So, hopefully it's gonna taste like something. Alright, so when you're making cream cheese icing, I got 1 block of cream cheese.
Oops. Oh, hold on. Wash your hands.
Oh, I'm on my hand.
Okay, so you're gonna mix the cream cheese and the butter together until it's smooth. When you're making cream cheese icing, if you don't mix those two together until smooth, you're gonna have clumps of cream cheese in it. And if you've ever had cream cheese with no anything with it, it's nasty.
Yeah.
So you turn it on, and you're just gonna mix it until it's all the way mixed together, nice and smooth. A tablespoon of vanilla. Tablespoon. Yeah. You don't see that? Smooth. That's what you want it to look like. You want to put it on the slowest speed possible, because if you have it going up too far, no, leave it up. If you have it mixing too fast, when you put this in there, you're going to have powdered sugar all over your kitchen and you're going to be mad at yourself. So, you just pour it in a little at a time. And also you pour a little at a time, because if you pour it to where it, all at once, it's also going to splash out no matter how fast or slow the thing is going. So you just add a little bit at a time. Little at a time. So I said in my video before this that there are a lot of things when I'm baking that I let mix and mix and mix and mix and mix, and icing is one of them. Clumpy. We don't want clumpy. We want smooth and fluffy. I like smooth and fluffy icing. So I'm gonna turn it back on the mixer, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add on a teaspoon at a time of water until I get the consistency that I want. Okay. All right, that's 1 teaspoon. That's what you want your icing. This is what you would want it to look like if you were like piping it out of a bag. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put a little bit of this in a bowl. And I'm gonna melt it, and then I'm gonna put it in the piping bag, and like while it's kind of melted, I'm gonna drizzle it on top, and that way it's not like big thick lines because they're so small. It's not like really big thick lines in it. And you don't want to microwave it any more than like 15 to 30 seconds depending on your microwave. You got a newer microwave, it might only take 10 seconds. You got an older microwave, it might take 30 seconds. I mean, definitely not 30 minutes. But you don't want to heat it up to the point to where it's bubbling up. Because then your sugar and your fat and stuff is going to start separating. Okay. So, you see now it's soupy, right? This is the consistency that you want to be able to drizzle it over them, because if you try to use it with it thick like the icing is made, it's not gonna look right. If you don't have a piping bag, you can either use a Ziploc bag, but make sure it's a sturdy one, because if you use the little cheap flimsy ones and you squeeze it, all your stuff gonna squeeze everywhere. You're gonna be mad at yourself, so don't do that. Or you can, with this particular case, because it's soupy, you can just go over it with your spoon like this, and it will drizzle. So when you're loading a piping bag, always fold the top of it over first, because if you don't, this is going to keep this part of it clean. So if you don't fold it over first and you just pour it in there, you're going to have a mess all over your hands. And you never want to fill it all the way up to the top, because if you fill it all the way up to the top, when you start squeezing, it's going to squeeze all over the top and you're going to match yourself again. So don't do that. So I'm just going to pour this in there like that. Right? So you see now the outside is nice and clean. Now I'm going to cut the tip of it, but I'm only going to cut maybe like not even a full fingertip length, because these are small. So the more you cut up, the bigger the hole is going to be, and I want like small, pretty drizzles on it. And you want to do this while the icing is still kind of warm. So you see how that just flows out of there like that? And you want to squeeze it a little bit always to make sure you get any air out. I don't know if y'all can see it or not, because I couldn't see. But I'm going to do all of these. No, y'all can't do this part.
But I know what you just did.
It took me forever to fix my vanilla cake recipe, because I tried, it was some I tried and they came out tasting like cornbread, and some of them I tried tasted like pure flour. It was just a hot mess. So what I had to do was I looked at all the recipes and I saw which ingredients did every one of them have. And when I saw that, I figured, well, if all of them got it, then you got to have it in that particular recipe. So I started off with those, and then I just kind of tweaked and, you know, did what I wanted to do to it until it came out, the texture and the flavor. Because your cake can taste good, but then it can be dry, you know, or it can look good and taste like cardboard. Show y'all what the what the inside of the cake looks like, right? So if you can see this, when you press it, it's nice and spongy, right? That is what cake should feel like when you push it. It shouldn't be all hard and I can't do anything with it. It should be soft and spongy. And this is why it's important to make sure that you that you mix the butter and the sugar together, like really, really good until it's nice and white and fluffy, because that air that's getting inside of that sugar and butter plays part to the cake being fluffy, because that air is what makes it fluffy, right? You're welcome. So, I'm gonna taste it. And this recipe really, you can eat it with any icing that you want, but it really tastes good with cream cheese. You see like how it's jiggling? Cake should jiggle, it should not be hard and tough, and it's nice and moist. You can tell when a cake is moist too, because when you cut it or you pick it up, the pieces, see how I'm like rubbing it, and the pieces aren't falling down? That's because it's moist and the pieces are being held together. If you get a dry cake and you do that, they're going to crumble down because it's dry and there's nothing holding the pieces together. So I ain't supposed to be eating this, but I'm going to. I took my walk this morning, so it'll be okay.
Oh, man.
Listen. This is why I can't lose no weight. Because I'm always in the kitchen. It's so good. So, it's nice. It's smooth when you bite into it. It's not overly sweet. It's good. Man, that's good. Okay, anyway. It's so good, y'all. I really shouldn't be this greedy, but it's good. So, yeah. So when I so what? Like I said, I'm gonna let those sit in the refrigerator for maybe like an hour. You don't want to ever put cake in the refrigerator for a long time with nothing covering it, because that cold air will dry it out also. So I'm just gonna put it in the refrigerator maybe like an hour, 30 minutes, depending on, just checking it to make sure that the icing is firm enough so that when I put it into the little individual bags, it doesn't, get all over the sides. So, oh Lord, that icing is delicious too, Jesus. Okay, so thanks for watching.